Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Reading from Srimad Bhagavatam, 10th canto, chapter number 8, text number 4. Please repeat after me. Mahad Vichalanam Nrunam. Mahad Vichalanam Nrunam. Gruhinam Dina Chetasam. Grihinam Dina Chetasam. Nishreyasaya Bhagavan. Nishreyasaya Bhagavan. Kalpate nanyatha kvachit. Kalpate nanyata kvachit. Mahad Vichalanam Runam. Gruhinam Dina Chetasam. Nishreyasaya Bhagavan. Kalpate nanyata kvachit. Mahad Vichalanam Runam. Grihinam Dina Chetasam. Nishreyasaya Bhagavan. Kalpate nanyata kvachit. Mahad Vichalanam Runam. Grihinam Dina Chetasam. Nishreyasaya Bhagavan. Kalpate nanyata kvachit. Near the Matajis. Mahad Vichalanam Runam. Grihinam Dina Chetasam. Nishreyasaya Bhagavan. Kalpate nanyata kvachit. Word to word translation. Mahad Vichalanam. The movement of great personalities. Runam. In the houses of ordinary persons. Grihinan. Especially householders. Dina Chetasam. Who are very simple-minded, being engaged in family maintenance and nothing more. Nishreyasaya. A great personality who has no reason to go to the Gruhastha but to benefit him. Bhagavan. O most powerful devotee. Kalpate. Is to be taken that way. Na anyatha. Not for any other purpose. Kvachit. At any time. Translation and purport by His Divine Grace A.C. Bhakti Vedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada. Translation. Please repeat after me. O my Lord, O great devotee, persons like you move from one place to another, not for their own interests, but for the sake of poor-hearted grihasthas, householders. Otherwise, they have no interest in going from one place to another. Purport. As factually stated by Nanda Maharaj, Gargamuni, being a devotee, had no needs. Similarly, when Krishna comes, he has no needs, for he is Purna, Atma Rama. Nonetheless, he descends to this material world to protect the devotees and vanquish miscreants. Paritranaya sadhunam vinashaya cha dushkrutam. Bhagavad Gita 4.8. This is the mission of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, and devotees also have the same mission. One who executes this mission of para upakara, performing welfare activities for people in general, is recognized by Krishna, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, as being very, very dear to him. Nacha tasman manushyeshu kaschin me priyakrittamaha. Bhagavad Gita 18.69. Similarly, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu has advised this para upakar, and he has especially advised the inhabitants of India. Bharata bhumite haila manushya janmayar, janma sartaka kari kara para upakar. One who has taken his birth as a human being in the land of India, Bharata Varsha, should make his life successful and work for the benefit of all other people. Chaitanya Charitamrita, Adi Leela 9.41. On the whole, the duty of a pure Vaishnava devotee is to act for the welfare of others. Nanda Maharaj could understand that Gargamuni had come for this purpose, and that his own duty now was to act according to Gargamuni's advice. Thus he said, "Please tell me what is my duty." This should be the attitude of everyone, especially the householder. The Varnashrama society is organized into 8 divisions: Brahmana, Kshatriya, Vaishya, Shudra, Brahmacharya, Grihastha, Vanaprastha, and Sannyasa. Nanda Maharaj represented himself as Gruhinam, a householder. A brahmachari factually has no needs, but Grihi householders are engaged in sense gratification. As stated in Bhagavad Gita 2.44, Bhogaishwarya prasaktanam taya apahrita chetasam. Everyone has come to this material world for sense gratification, and the position of those who are too attached to sense gratification and who therefore accept the grihastha ashrama is very precarious. Since everyone in this material world is searching for sense gratification, grihasthas are required to be trained as mahat, great mahatmas. Therefore, Nanda Maharaj specifically used the word mahad vichalanam. Gargamuni had no interest to serve by going to Nanda Maharaj, but Nanda Maharaj as a grihastha was always perfectly ready to receive instructions from a Mahatma to gain the real benefit in life. Thus he was ready to execute Gargamuni's order. Thus ends the Bhaktivedanta purport. Om Ajnana Timirandasya Gnananjana Shalakaya Chakshurunmilitam Yenam Tasmai Shri Guruve Namaha Nama Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prestaya Bhutale Srimate Bhaktivedanta Swamin Itinamine Namaste Saraswate Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paschat Deshatarine Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadara Shivasadi Gaura Bhaktarunda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. O my Lord, O great devotee, persons like you move from one place to another, not for their own interests, but for the sake of poor-hearted grihasthas, householders. Otherwise, they have no interest in going from one place to another. So we see in this verse there are two important aspects that is being talked about. One is the aspect of how do the Mahatmas or the great devotees of the Lord, how do they live their lives? What is the goal of their life? How do they do that? And the second aspect is how do people follow the Varnashrama system? Especially, specific mention is given about grihasthas and what they should do, and Prabhupada has elaborated a little bit in a very nice way in this verse. So here Gargamuni was traveling and came to Nanda Maharaj to give him some instructions. And Nanda Maharaj, as an ideal grihastha, is immediately recognizing his good fortune, that Gargamuni has come, and is eagerly looking to receive instructions from him. In the Chaitanya Charitamrita, it's after Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's things. After Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's pastimes are completed in this world and his primary associates, if you think about the next generation, see today we take all this vast knowledge of the Gaudiya Vaishnava Siddhanta for granted, or for that matter even Srimad Bhagavatam and Chaitanya Charitamrita. We say, oh, it's there. But just go back 500 years. The Goswamis wrote all this wonderful literature. Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu was written. Now, there was only one copy. Think about it. Like, if you had to get some knowledge, it was not a very easy thing. You had to go to somebody who has the knowledge, and you had to, first of all, you had to find the bona fide person, and then you get knowledge from him. So, very nicely, in the post Goswami transfer of this Bhandar, this treasure of knowledge from Vrindavan to West Bengal, back to Navadvip, Bengal and Odisha, and those areas is nicely described in Bhakti Ratnakara by Narottam Das Thakur. So, anybody remembers who is like the pivotal acharya who helps in this? Yeah. So the main person is Srinivas Acharya, as you said, along with Narottam Das Thakur and Shyamananda Pandit. They are the ones who actually took this literature. So very nicely, the Srinivas Acharya's life is described in Bhatni Ratnakara. So Srinivas Acharya was born in the village of Chakandi in Burdwan district in Bengal in the early 16th century. Just a little bit after Chaitanya Mahaprabhu had left this world. He was born to a very devout Brahmana in a very nice family, and right from his childhood he had a very deep interest in spiritual subject matters, and was showed a lot of devotional, inclination right from the beginning. So, as he was growing up and learning all these things, he had a very, very intense desire to go to Vrindavan and learn from the Goswamis. So, eventually he got the opportunity to travel to Vrindavana, and he became a disciple of Gopal Bhatta Goswami, who was one of those primary 6 Goswamis and a direct associate of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Under his guidance, he very deeply studied Vaishnava Siddhanta and really understood. Jiva Goswami took a very special liking to him because of his sincerity and his commitment and his steadfastness. In fact, Jiva Goswami used to call him his son. So that was the level of deep connection that they had. So Jiva Goswami finally says, okay, now this vast literature of knowledge is there, but this has to go back to Navadvip, and it should be used all over and spread over there, all over Bengal and Odisha. And again, in those days, you don't have internet and you can upload somewhere and send something, no WhatsApp, right? You have to physically go from place to place and take things. So an arrangement was made that this bandhar of literature, they were literally the single copies of this subject matter, Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu, all of this. So they were all physically put into an actual bandhar, into a treasure chest, and they were traveling. Srinivasa Acharya, Narottam Das Thakur and Shyamananda Pandit. So when they were on the way, as they were reaching Bengal, a very interesting thing happened. There, one of the kings over the local king, his name was Birhambir. So his background was that he actually was a dacoit earlier, and then he becomes transformed and becomes a devotee. And he, I guess, still had his little dacoit mentalities, I think. And so when this group was going by, he stole that treasure chest. At that time, can you imagine the only copy of this literature, and you're interested with taking it over there, and 3 people are going, and then suddenly the treasure chest is stolen. They were all like crestfallen. They were wondering, what is Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's desire? What is Lord's desire? What do we do at this point? And they were very despondent. At that point, it was decided that Narottam Das Thakur and Shyamananda Pandit would actually continue their journey. At least he said, forget those books, at least we have it in our brains, let us go and disseminate this information. What can be done? But Srinivasa Acharya was very, very intensely was desiring to somehow recover those books. He didn't know what had happened and all that. And so he stayed back. And then he was preaching over there to the local community over there. And mainly he was teaching Bhagavatam. And this king Birhambir would come and listen to him, because he was after all a devotee. He was a dacoit who had become a devotee. And so by listening to him and preaching, he realized, what am I doing? What is going on here? And then he actually goes and understands the transcendental nature of what he had stolen. And goes and begs forgiveness of Srinivasa Acharya and hands over the treasure chest. That's when he realizes what books are there inside, what is the value of this literature. And Srinivasa Acharya was very, very pleased with him. And he was also elated that these books had come back. And this king actually became his disciple, and helped in spreading all over his kingdom. So finally the Lord arranged for this incident to happen, so that actually deep Vaishnava Siddhanta could be spread in Bengal. And so Srinivasa Acharya, if you think about it, he embodies what this verse is saying, right? He had no need to leave his village in Bengal, where he was very happy. He got all the knowledge he needed. He was a devout. He was already practicing. But he had his desire to meet the Goswamis, learn this, and then spread the message, the missionary spirit, as Prabhupada is calling out over here. And so Srinivasa Acharya comes back over here. Particularly, he was doing his preaching work, it is said, in Murshidabad, Keturi, and in a few surrounding areas over there. And he was a very, very staunch philosopher and teacher, and so many scholars and kings all became his disciples. And so in the Vaishnava tradition, Srinivasa Acharya has a very important role for taking this message back from Vrindavan, all this deep knowledge, and spreading over there. There is a very famous festival that Narottam Das Thakur used to organize, called the Keturi festival. In this festival, it's the first Gaudiya Vaishnava festival after Lord Chaitanya's disappearance. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's time, which was a very famous festival that used to happen. Rath Yatra, more famous than Pani, right? And so Rath Yatra would be where all the devotees would come everywhere, gather, and big, huge kirtans would happen, right? So very, very similar scale, big scale, this Keturi festival was organized, and Srinivasa Acharya played a very, very important role. And he would sing very wonderfully, and this thing. So I'll just read a little bit about this. This Keturi festival, at Keturi, during the great festival organized by Narottama, Srinivasa Acharya led the Nama Sankirtana and Katha, and all the Vaishnavas present experienced deep ecstatic symptoms, Sattvika Bhavas. Some traditions say that the Panchatattva deities manifested personally during that festival. So spiritually potent was the atmosphere. So Panchatattva deities sort of manifested during the festival, like what we know as those actual Panchatattva that we worship. So that's the level of significance of that Keturi festival and Srinivasa Thakur's participation in that. So he continued preaching, most of his life, and his principal disciples was Ramachandra Kaviraj, who was a great scholar, and Hemalata Thakurani, his daughter, and an exemplary devotee in her own right. You see this, when I was reading this, I remembered how, in our tradition, women played a very, very important role in preaching, right? Like in the Chaitanya Gaudiya Vaishnava tradition, who is like the most primemost of all the women? Right? Janvi Mata, Nityananda Prabhu's wife. And she was such a stalwart preacher and organized so much of organized preaching. And then next generation, this is next generation, Srinivasa Acharya's daughter, Hemalata Thakurani. She was an exemplary Acharya and exemplary devotee and preacher. So it's a very wonderful to see, very inspiring to see how our Vaishnava tradition, today we talk about women's liberation and all those things, but 500 years ago they were already liberated, or even 5,000 years. It's just that we keep making up all these new things, and distorting, many of the real things that is needed. So this was this aspect of how devotees take up this missionary spirit of like going place to place to preach and all that. And we as devotees should aspire to do that. This missionary spirit is what Prabhupada gave. We're all reading Prabhupada's letters in 1969, 68, 69. Somebody became a little serious, little fixed up. He said, okay, now you go to this place, start a temple. Just people just go here, and 2-3 people they just go here and start a temple. And that's how they would just go there just on the basis of Prabhupada's words. So yesterday we were reading about the purchase of the big church in Toronto. Sorry, I was not reading in the letters, but I was hearing one of these things, pastimes. So in Toronto, this is in the mid-70s when Prabhupada had gone there. So the temple president over there, they had found one beautiful church, really right in the heart of downtown, main street, very attractive and all that. And it was very suitable for making a temple and an ashram and all of these things. And so he had met Prabhupada and said, Prabhupada, this is very nice church, we should buy this. And Prabhupada said, yes, we will do this. He asked, how much is the church? He said, $500,000. $500,000 in 1970 is minimum 5 million, 6 million at this point. Right? And so can you imagine, there are hardly few people like this, and then they're suddenly saying $5 million you buy a church. And then there was some discussion, and Prabhupada said, no, let's not worry too much about this. We should focus on preaching and a spiritual life. We should not get bogged down by too much of this responsibility. Otherwise, how will you keep collecting money to pay the mortgage on a 500,000, right? And then they just left it at that. And then Prabhupada actually visited Toronto. When he visited Toronto, then he again called for this devotee and said, you were telling me about the church, is the church still there? Yes, Prabhupada, the church is still there. Do you want to go and see? Said, okay, let's go and see. And so they go and see this big church. It's got a very beautiful hall with a nice ceiling and all that. And then there's the place for ashram. There is a nice place for kitchen. Everything was quite well set up, and a very prominent place right in the heart of Toronto, in downtown. Then he said, no, this is too much. How much are they asking? 500,000. They still not come down anything. Okay, this is nice, but we should not take this too much responsibility like this. And then they left it and they go back. And then Prabhupada is in his room, in his apartment. He is translating this thing. In the evening, he calls for the devotee again. And this devotee says, the Prabhupada is asking for you. Then he goes running. And he said, how much are those people asking for this? How much do you think? How much money do you have? He said, Prabhupada, we have $40,000. Can you raise another $60,000? I mean, again, just do the math. It's almost multiply by 10 times everything that we're talking. Can you raise $600,000? There are just a few devotees, small this thing. Somehow we'll manage, Prabhupada. We'll raise that. Then he calls for his secretary and says, how much is there in the BBT trust? We have $240,000. Then he says, okay, give $200,000 to him and go make an offer for $300,000, all cash offer. And this devotee is like, and then he asked this temple, are you willing to pay the interest on this $200,000 mortgage? He's like, "No." Now he's coming into senses. Prabhupada, that's going to be a little difficult. We'll have to raise this 60,000 and then pay the interest on this 200,000, and that's not going to be so difficult. It's going to be a little difficult. And Prabhupada says, you should take some anxiety for Krishna. It's like full 180 degrees. If you don't take anxiety for Krishna, then what is their life? We'll all become complacent and we'll sit in one place. You should take some anxiety for Krishna. He was like, just 2 times. In the one time when he met, he had said, no, don't worry about all this. And next second time, and now 180 degrees Prabhupada is turning. And then you can imagine, they go and make a cash offer, and they accept it. And that's how, that beautiful, this thing. They paid $300,000 for it in 1972. $3 million in the thing, and the temple is still there, and a lot of devotees are still benefiting from it. So this was Prabhupada's like missionary spirit. He would take all these big risks and this and do all this big preaching work, because the idea is that is the purpose of our life itself. Especially as missionaries, we should try to minimize our extracurricular activities. Even grihasthas, your family, all these things, ultimately is actually an extracurricular activity only. Your main curriculum is become a devotee and make others devotees. Right? So Prabhupada is telling very nicely in this purport, because this is important. He's telling grihastha ashrama means, what does he say? A brahmachari has no needs. Right? But gruhi, householders, are engaged in sense gratification. That is the reality of life. How much does a brahmachari need? You go check whatever, all put together, all his possessions will come in on 2 bags or something. Right? I hope so. Now, same person becomes a grihastha. Now go to their house. You think everything will fit in there? You need a big 56-foot truck to take all your belongings from one place to another. Right? The word stri means expansion. All said and done, it'll expand. That is the natural, part of grihastha ashrama. That's okay. But that missionary spirit should still be there. So everyone has come to this material world for sense gratification. And the position of those who are attached to sense gratification and who therefore accepted the grihastha ashrama is very precarious. If you accept grihastha ashram, saying, I can have a lot of sense gratification, external sense gratification, your life is very precarious. Because the reality is, this ashrama is like how long it's supposed to be? 25 years. From 25 to 50. And then after that, you have to get back to your full missionary spirit. Grihasthas have to start taking the vanaprastha ashrama, which means, just there is no end to responsibilities. There is no end. This problem is there, this problem is there, that problem, some other problem will continue to be there. So we have to let go of those problems, right? Otherwise, what will happen? Kala will make you let go anyway. So why don't you voluntarily let go? That is the whole idea of vanaprastha and sannyas. If you hold on to it, janma, mrityu, jara, vyadhi is not going to let you go. You will have to suffer. You will have to let go. And how inglorious it is if all of this is taken away from you, from your, you're holding on to it strongly, and then your Yamadutas will come and drag you away from it anyway. They say, right, from the cold prying hands, everything will be taken away from you. So would you rather give up all this in that way, or would you voluntarily give it up? Is a choice that devotees have. That is why these ashramas, grahastha, then vanaprastha and sannyasa, were designed in a very scientific way, for this thing. So Prabhupada is telling, since everyone in this material world is searching for sense gratification, grahasthas are required to be trained as mahat, great mahatmas. Therefore, Nanda Maharaj specifically used the word mahad vichalanam. Right? Gargamuni had no interest to serve by going to Nanda Maharaj, but Nanda Maharaj, as a grahastha, was always perfectly ready to receive instructions from a Mahatma to gain the real benefit in life. Thus, he was ready to execute Gargamuni's order. So, we should all take this inspiration, from what Gargamuni did, and then what Srinivasacharya did, and so many, and what Prabhupada did. At the age of 72, Prabhupada was very happily situated in Vrindavan. Right? He didn't have to take all of these endeavors to do this. And he gave that missionary zeal to his disciples. And anyone who truly caught on to that missionary zeal, they have led very fulfilling lives, taking this mission as Bhagavad Gita 18.69 Prabhupada is quoting, Nachatasman manusheshu kaschin me priyakrittamaha. If you want to become very dear to Krishna, very dear to Prabhupada, we have to take this missionary zeal. There is no other way. And this will come with some sacrifice. Always it is there. We have to take up things that's why it's called a little bit of a stretch goal. The Toronto, the temple, it was definitely a significant stretch goal. Right? They had 40,000 and trying to buy something 500,000. And somehow even they got it for 300,000. But it is a significant stretch goal. But when the devotees did that and took up that missionary spirit, miracles happened in their own lives. Mainly in their own lives, they become serious and realizations come when you do this tapasya. So we should all be looking for opportunities to stretch ourselves, to understand the phases of life. Life comes, things happen. Old age comes, diseases will come. But preaching continues. We cannot be affected by the external manifestations of different challenges. Okay. We'll stop here. Anybody has any questions or comments? So such this thing, Prabhupada is always so clear, buy something and start some place, have your own place so that you can preach and or that 10,000. There was this thing yesterday, that letter, some $10,000 they needed. Down payment. That is like 100,000 now, And buy a gas station. That was very Prabhupada's had a very, very clear ideas of how to realize this thing. In fact, if you see when you're reading these letters, many times Prabhupada talks about have a temple, have a restaurant, so that people will come and they will have prasadam and this thing, and you can you'll have some service to do and things like that. By the way, restaurant business is one of the toughest businesses. Lot of austerity involved, lot of these things. But if you do it nicely, you, people are coming and paying money to take prasadam. And they see devotees serving and all that, and they'll come and have darshan. Like, what a wonderful combination, right? You've seen, after we started the Sri Radhas, our visitors weekdays has more than 3 times, 4 times it has become. Huh? Daily, so many people are coming, so many people are having darshan and this thing. I would say 70-80% of the people who come for restaurant will come and at least have darshan and go. We were earlier figuring out how to get people here, go here, do distribute this, distribute that, and tell people out. See, now Radharani is automatically attracting everybody. So if you have nice prasadam, nice atmosphere, people go back, oh, these people are nice people. That's the main thing. We should give them that impression. Everything should be neat and clean, done nicely, and nice temple, smiling face. We should talk to them and receive them nicely and this thing, because they're all guests of this. So we should all pray for that missionary zeal, and Prabhupada has given us the next 2 years. We have a huge project on our hands. We have almost $15 million of construction that we have approvals in the next 2 years. It's an unbelievable number, and this thing. It's in many ways like last time I met Madhupada Prabhu. He asked me so what about the finances? I said, Prabhu, I don't have any idea how the finances will come. He laughed and said, yeah, you are following in our tradition. Somehow it will come. 3-4 years from now, we'll all sit and say, how did it come? We don't know, it will come. But we should have that missionary zeal. We should have that spirit. We should be ready to work hard. That we have to do, and then Prabhupada and Krishna Balaram and Radharani will bless us. Okay? Grantraj Srimad Bhagavatam ki, Jai Srila Prabhupada ki, Bol Premanande.